practicing outside in weather like this very often. Would you want to get them out in the elements today, or?
It was great. I just mentioned that just felt like a good fall practice, like old school, like high school type deal. A little bit of mist out there and a lot of energy. So um, that was awesome. I like that. I'm a little juiced right now, honestly.
What do you? I mean, obviously, Pavia gets so much attention, but what about Vanderbilt's offense makes them as successful as they have been?
Yeah, I mean they just do so much well, and uh, they're so unified in what they do. We talk so much on defense, right, about hey, the front end, right, and the back end need to be tight end, coverage, front, pass rush, coverage, all of that, and it's the same on offense, and they do such a good job. It starts with how they play, the effort in which they play. Their receivers block their tails off. The running backs like try to rip your heads off. I think uh, Alexander thinks he's an offensive tackle. Like when he tries to block, like he tries to put you on his back. He takes pride in it, um, and so it starts with that. Like you can tell that they all fight for each other, but then their scheme wise is so multiple. They're going to be in and out of different personnel groups, in and out of different formations, and then you've got zone scheme, you've got gap scheme. The difference this year from when we played them last year is just that they've really expanded the pass game, and the route concepts and the pass game is at a completely different level than it was last year. And so now they have the ability to run and run the ball well, but then they also have it when they want to throw, they can throw the ball really well. And so that's a lethal combination. It's why they're, top 10 in points. It's obviously Pavia's throwing the ball really well, in terms of completion percentage. He's up there at 70%. I mean, they just do so many things that put stress on you.
Coach, will you speak a little bit to Eli Stowers and how Vanderbilt uses the tight end position as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Eli's a tremendous player. Might be, he's obviously in the conversation for, one of the best in the country. But then I don't think, 16 gets enough credit. I think as a tandem, they're as good of a tight end tandem, as there is. And certainly that we've played. Eli is, he's a matchup issue, right? He's so big, he runs so smooth. If you put a smaller body on him, he can big body you. If you put a bigger body on him, the athleticism, the catch radius, it makes it, easier on a quarterback when you have those two tight ends and you feel a defender on the inside hip. Well, I'm going to just throw it high and away to the outside. It's either going to be an incompletion or it's going to be a catch, and it's wild that the interceptions are way down. There's only 5 interceptions that they've thrown on the year, and because they have those big targets, he can throw it, away from defenders, and more often than not, it's a catch because they go up and get it. So you have 2 really talented tight ends, and then they've got, other guys that'll come in that block really well, that play different roles, and so they can get big. They can go with 4 tight ends, 3 tight ends, and again, it goes to the multiplicity of their offense.
And what kind of challenges does it bring when they switch the guards and tackles like they do to the short and the
Yeah. So the quick and the strong, and yeah, I mean, it's just unique in that aspect. So maybe you won't know that, hey, who you're necessarily pass rushing against, depending on the formation that you get. But at the end of the day, our guys have to do a good job of just getting themselves in line and playing technique on whoever they're on, and then obviously identify who they're on, and because every player on both sides of the ball, right, have strengths and weaknesses, and you want to try to attack the weaknesses, and so you have to know who you're going against to be able to attack it.
Diego Pavia is able to extend a lot of plays with his legs, and he's really shifty. Do your guys get excited to go up against a player like that?
You'll have to ask them. I do not. obviously it adds an extra dimension. As soon as you get a mobile quarterback and someone as mobile as he is, and as strong as he is, um, again, he's built sturdy, and so it's not just that he's athletic, but he's hard to tackle, and he'll try to run you over. I reminiscent of Andrew Luck when I was in Indianapolis. Like, Andrew had that ability. Like, he was built like a linebacker, and then all of a sudden he's outrunning you at the same time, and you're like, man, it shouldn't be like this. And so he presents all kinds of issues that you have to now account for him, and you have to rush smart. But when there's that fine line between rushing smart and still having to be able to pass rush with some pace and some aggression. And so he's going to make some plays. Like, that's the reality, that you have to preach to your guys, is like, what you have to do is try to limit some of the major ones. But he's going to make his plays, and when he does, like, we've got to regroup, and we've got to try to just anchor in, and play the next play, because there's going to be some frustrating downs that you felt like you had them, you felt like you should have had a negative that all of a sudden turned into a positive for them, and that's football, and there's a reason that they're, top 15 in the country.
What have you seen from your unit the past 3 weeks that gives you confidence going into this big matchup that does have a lot on the line?
Yeah, we'll see, just like how they practice. I like how they prep. I like how they care about each other. And that's a big deal for me. Like, how you go about your business is gonna show up on Saturday, and you can feel it. You can feel it during the week. You can feel it in pregame. You can there's a lot about just, again, we talk with the word, that character, right? And then competitive toughness. And it's what I think these guys have. And obviously, you get to the end of the season, and guys are, having to grind through, nicks and bumps and bruises. But instead of dwelling on it or, feeling sorry for themselves, they look to the guy next to them and say, hey, man, I got to do it for him. And they just wrap the tape on harder, they throw on more Band-Aids, they strap on more shoulder straps, and they go.
Do you think you might get Alex back?
Coach handles all the
Have
personnel.
you seen that been magnified when when you had a couple losses, that the guys have been, even rallying more around each other to kind of replace the guys that have been out of the lineup?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it's that it's more. That's been the thing that's been so impressive about this group as a whole team, right? Yes, anytime you win, there's positive momentum. But there was juice throughout, and they just continued to grow into each other, and we knew it if they just kept believing, if they just kept growing, the results were going to get there, and nobody wanted to hear it, coaches included. You don't want to just keep saying out loud, hey guys, just keep planting seeds. You're going to see the rewards. You're going to reap the rewards. And it feels hollow at times. But they did. They just kept pushing into each other harder and harder. And then obviously, boom, you see some rewards, and you continue to push in, boom, and you see some more. And then, and that's how you get that snowball effect. And so I don't want to say, hey, listen, they're more juiced now just because they're winning. I just think they continue pushing into each other.
You've spoken throughout the season about the importance of patience in development leading to experience. When you watch Vanderbilt on film, can you see the benefit of their experience?
100%. It's a great question. I think very much so. When you see the growth, even though they have sort of a changed out offensive line, right? But you can feel veteran players that understand how to meld with each other. And then you can feel the veteran players that were grown through the program, pulling them in, right? And so, yeah, there's so much about experience that allows, teams to play at an optimal level and be able to overcome certain situations. You can tell that they don't get frantic, when they're down. They're confident that they can come back. They don't get overly hyped when they're ahead because they know, hey, it's a long game, and so they just, and that just comes with, you know, with time. And I think they've got all senior starters except for maybe 3 juniors. Like it's a very veteran offense, and you can see that's why they play as, you know, soundly as they do.
Okay, last one.
Last year, you all lost at home here in a tough game, obviously. You guys talked about getting it as a get-back game for the ones that played them last year. Is that something that's on the mind for you as well about getting this thing back, or is it kind of different since it's a whole different roster for you?
Yeah, and maybe it's just we talk about experience. It's also about age, right? Like games are never really get-back games for me. You know, that each game is its own entity. I don't think about it like, man, I got to get back at this team, or I got to get back at this coordinator, or I've got to get whatever the case may be. It's every game, every year is its own separate entity, and I personally view this as, okay, this is just the next opponent. We're going to game plan it the same way as we do every single week. You know, obviously you try to pull from things that you did well last year, try to learn from the mistakes of last year, but it you know, when you start to get emotional in a game plan, if you get emotional as a play caller, you typically make bad calls. Like rarely, when I look back, when I'm in the middle of a game and I make an emotional call, does it ever work for our benefit.
Okay, folks, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Souls, Rick.